the trade setup. Basically, you had a green background, you had the green midterm oracle, the short-term turned red and didn't go below -2, but then it turned green again, so your entry would have been up in here. So since that time, on this big run, we didn't have any hook trade whatsoever. It was just exceptionally strong. And this is a very high reading up here. This is over 6 on the midterm. And then again, of course, you got into it one more time here on the 3 ducks. We talked about the 3 ducks. Here it was. Using money management took you out at 3,500. If you elected to take this trade, you'd still be in this trade. You could be running a stop up under here or here right now. So that's the 6E. Dennis has asked, let me see, Dennis, is that a recent question? Fairly recent? Did we answer your question on why the valid 60 hook entry in the background and transition? Did we answer that, Dennis? I can revisit it if yes, I did. Okay, all right. Okay, now let's take a look at another one. What do we show? 6E, 6S. We've got 6A here. I can show that one. These are all on the oracles. Here's 6A, which is the Aussie dollar. Basically the same concept here on the Aussie. You had a very nice entry here a little bit later in the day, around 50 minutes past the hour, but still caught the nice move here, caught the second one here. You could have been done trading at this point in time. You had a nice profit. It ended up taking another trade that got stopped out, right? And then entered the third trade, went up and made new highs on the equity, and the big green again took you out at 3,000. So those are very nice trades. If you follow, here's another good example of what Dennis was referring to. This is a hook trade in transition. All right, this is a hook trade coming in transition. This was not set to take a transition hook. It took it because we were still green here. But had it missed it, this would have been the setup. You basically have a green long-term oracle. Your background moved from up to yellow transition, right? Your short-term oracle turned red, went below -2, and if it didn't go below -2, it popped up to here. So you could have entered it here. And the other important thing is what's important in transition is if you want to follow your long-term trailing stop dots, this will help you determining whether you want to take that transition trade or not. You can see this is another one right here, right? This is an ultra deep probe. But as long as you've got good, strong midterm oracles, you're above your trail stop long-term, you can take those transition trades. So that was 6A. Okay, that was clear too, right, Hans? Yep. And let's see. I think I've got one more to show. This is EMD from today. This is trading breakout. This is trading using the trend filter on breakout. You know, you've got that ability to do that. Let me show that in here. And you're going to show that you had a lot more money in this at one time. It's up 1060 right now, but you know, you were up close to $2,000 at this point in time. There wasn't any need to continue to take trades after this. We're going to show that again, but just to reiterate, breakout is really 2 strategies in one. It has the ability to take the normal breakout strategy, or you can turn it off, which I did here, and use this long-term trend filter, in this case set to 34, to manage a trade. So it's only going to be taking trades long using this as your guidance. It's doing it automatically. You don't have to toggle anything on or off. And you can see it gradually, started to work through some trades here. Gradually built it up to $2,000 or near $2,000 at this point in time. And then eventually took this last trade, which gave some up. But I wanted to show if you had set your big green setting in here, and we recommend doing this. Let's say you put a very conservative number here at, say, 1,800. It would have taken you out somewhere in here and not allowed any more trading. Let's see if we can show that example. Well, I need to make one change. I don't have the liberal set in here, so let me do that. It just has something to do with the way Ninja does it in historical, so let me make that setting change and we'll come back. We can see it. And here it is. You can see it took it right out up here and didn't allow the short trade. So again, just proper money management. And this is basically all in the time span of 1 hour. Just, a great run up in 1 hour. A beautiful run up. Let's see. Lee asked a question. I noticed you weren't using the 10 and 80 targets, but 1-2 contract runner. Yeah, Lee, I've gotten away from using the 10 and 80s in these markets because they're so volatile right now. They're moving so much. It really doesn't make any sense to me from a risk reward standpoint to when we're expecting big moves, and we're expecting big moves today, of using a 20 tick stop and trying to get 10 ticks on one contract. You're much better off trying to let these run further. And in this particular case with the 20 tick stop and an 80 tick profit target, your risk to reward is 4-to-1 basically, which is very good. You're not always going to get that, but at least when these trail stops kick in and the crank stop kicks in like this, it's going to preserve a lot of profit. So that's why it's best to do that. And we have talked about that probably over the last 3 or 4 months. I just wanted to reiterate that. So that was a good point that you brought up there. Sure, Anthony, you can ask a question. What is your question? Ahmad, let me clarify that too. What Ahmad mentioned. By the way, if you see any trade setups here, Gary or Charles, just call them out while we're recapping this.
Okay.
Don't confuse this EMA filter with the trend filter. Okay, this is something completely separate. Okay, if you want, you can filter these trades against an exponential moving average. In this case, it would be a 200, but it's not on. See, it's not on, so it's not being used at all. That's another feature that's within this. But what I'm talking about here is when you turn breakout off, you can go over to your trend filter. This is your trend filter. Trend filter no breakout, which means it's being used when breakout is off, right? And this is set to 34, and that will emulate this. So that's how the trend filter works. And the crank on the EMD right now is the default crank. On the breakout, the crank stop is set to kick in when it's 30 ticks in your favor. with the trail offset here of 14. All right. It's a little bit different than in the futures oracle because that's set at 30.30, but this is 30.14 because for the equities and some of these other markets, it comes up a little bit tighter here, which you want to do. Anthony asks, am I using the standard settings? Everything on this, Anthony, is standard with the exception of the stop, which was increased to 20. Normally the default is 15, but in these markets you want to go deeper on your stops and profit targets. Well, not so much profit targets, but the stops for sure. You want to give it that extra room. But everything else that you see is standard in here. And it's just the standard entries: breakout, trend change, and regular probe. Just these 3 entries. And then the other thing is I always turn off the break even. I don't like break even on when I'm trying to go for bigger targets, because a lot of times you'll get into the trade and it'll just take you out by a little bit and then head back in your direction. But everything else is standard here, as it always is. I'm uniform on what I show, day in and day out on these. I don't bounce around. The only thing I may change from time to time is the profit targets. When I'm expecting a big run, sometimes trading a quantity 1 of 1 and a quantity 2 of 2 of 1, we'll set the profit targets to bigger. Could go 160 and 80, 160 and 80, as we showed over in the currencies. But when it comes to the equities, 80 ticks is pretty good on a move to keep you in a move. I find that if you try to go beyond this, you're not going to get them most of the time. But the currencies, they're a different animal. Lisa asks, could you show a comparison of the results for us without the trend filter and breakout? I sure can, Lee, and this is why I'm partial to this. I like this. That's why we show them. That's why we have them in the pro package. But I show you because this can get pretty whippy. I wouldn't be surprised if it actually even ended up losing money. So let's take a look at it. That's why I really like this approach. All right, but let's just show what it would be. Let's turn it on. My guess is it probably would have lost money. Let's take a look, because it's going to be taking short trades in here that I just don't like. I don't like going against that long-term trend. Let's take a look at it. Yeah, see, it actually ended up, because you're getting short in here, you're getting short in here, you're getting short in here. It's just too whippy in here. Okay, this smooths it out. This totally smooths it out. So again, that's why I like trading this. You take what would be a very difficult day trade-wise, and why is that? Part of that is, let's just take a look here, right? And this is tailor-made for this. Let's go back to where this was. Look at the move that we had starting last night. Okay, this is the move that we had. Now, what is this? This is a huge, giant move to the upside, right? And if you didn't participate in this last night, and this was what, about how big of a move was that? 30 ticks? I mean, 30 handles? You're going to get this. You're either going to get sideways chop for a long time, or you're going to get sideways chop with a overall bias in the trend direction. Okay, so that's another reason. Had we done this all night, okay, then it would have been a different story. Then you can be starting to look for these breakout moves. But once you're expecting consolidation, you're much better off using these long-term trends to stay with the bias. Okay, so we'll turn it back off again, and we're going to use the trend filter. And it's a huge difference. And that comes from, again, when we talk about when to turn an auto on and when to follow it, that comes from analyzing the market ahead of time. So you're going to go back and analyze what this market did. This market was up strongly, all right? So we were going to expect it either to roll over or to do what it did right in here, which is basically make it, we're moving up, but it was a series of big retraces in here. And that's why this is extremely important. See, and we're still, we still haven't taken the high out here yet. We're kind of in a no man's land right now, trade-wise. I don't like any one of these trades in here right now. I would just sit and wait. And I would actually wait. I mean, if you're not done trading for the day, I would sit and wait on the next series of high energy times that you're going to be coming in. Right? We have one coming up at 9:57, and we have another one at 11:44. I don't like the one at 9:57 because that's in the lunch hour trade, but I do like the late one. So if you're going to trade again, I would pass on the 9:57 and look to trade the late one. Arjun said, do you expect tomorrow to be a choppy day after these big runs? You know, Arjun, I would, if the markets continue to hold like this, yes, but can't tell you. We've got about another, what, 4 hours, 4.5 hours to go, but certainly yes. Lee said, why did I choose the 34 for the trend filter as opposed to 27? Because 27 would not emulate this. Okay, 34, Lee, is gonna emulate your long-term dots here, right? It's gonna emulate it. See how it does it? 27, which is the default, would be something different than this, and you can work with that. You can match them up. All right. Okay. Yeah, and as Manoj has indicated, 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific is a very good time to trade. And yes, Marco, a trend filter of 34 on this will emulate the 12 range. Let me show that. Trend filter of 34 will emulate this. See, just to show an example too, you can also turn the EMA filter on too. I mean, let's just see what this would have done. I have no idea what it would have done, but we can also say, all right, we're going to also filter it against a 200 EMA. I don't know what it would have done. Let's take a look. Pretty much the same thing, because we must have been above it. Okay, Charles, we can switch over to you. It's getting a little late here. I didn't notice that.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I'm ready to go. Whenever I see you had a lot of good questions coming in there, and I did record most of this, so that's good. I want to kind of reinforce what Rich just covered here. So let me flip over to me if we're done with questions for Rich, and let me see if I can get switched over here. So this is perfect dovetail into what I wanted to show on EMD, Rich, what you showed there with breakout.
Okay, all right.
It's perfect. I mean, it's just going to dovetail perfectly. And I wanted to start with what you showed overnight. And we talked about having a pre-market routine in the mornings where we assess what happened overnight. And I just want to cover that quickly, and then we'll get right straight away into the trades that set up this morning. Here's the close from yesterday. Actually, I was online with Mark W., who's in the room. He's been with us actually for a couple of years now. I didn't realize he lived in the Bay Area, and we got together for a quick cup of coffee. Anyway, we were kind of watching this market yesterday, and it was chopping around into the close here. And then, of course, you see it just totally broke down. This is midnight Pacific, this line right here. And it just tanked, of course, put in a low down here, and then we got this little kind of swim move up. And then you can see here that our 12 range guidance dots flip to the long side, and we're pretty much long on this whole run up overnight. Now, coming into the early morning session, we can see that we had some support and resistance levels put in here very early around 5 o'clock Pacific. You got this little kind of yellow bar probe that bipped up. If you weren't watching that, you might have missed it, but it just happened kind of quickly here around 5 Pacific. Now, the open the market, let me scoot this forward. So in our pre-market routine, we probably noticed that the Dow futures, if you track that at all, were up like 110 to 120 all morning, which reflects this move up here. So as Rich pointed out, of course, we go into this pocket of consolidation between about 6 and about 640. Let me adjust the chart to the right here. See if I can get some of this now. So in summary, coming into the open, we were watching this consolidation patch. Our 12 range guidance dots were long. This is from the Pro package. This is telling us we wanted to only look for long trades, right? We're only looking for long trades here. Now let's come and examine what happened right around the open, okay? Here's the open of the market right here, 6:30 Pacific. Now, by the way, looking here to the left-hand side of the chart, does this pattern look familiar today to anybody? It's a quick question for make sure everybody's still awake and having their coffee and paying attention. Does this pattern here that we see on this chart today look familiar? And that's kind of a question related to see if folks are opening up their emails. We've been sending out these video recaps with a couple of charts attached. By the way, I sometimes have to resend the chart ones because I forget to attach them. It's my old age. My apologies. Anybody looking at those? Does this look familiar? Like the past 3 days, I mean, you could have just basically taken a textbook print of this and used it every day as a blueprint to trade, right? That's right, Lee, Nasir, Ahmad, everybody. Yeah, this looks identical to yesterday, and it looks like almost identical to Monday. Go back and open up those charts. I'm going to actually do screenshots of this and put them next to each other. Pretty much all the equities, Russell, NASDAQ, EMD, all almost identical to this. Here you have some support and resistance. And interestingly enough, to the left here, you can see that we were getting a series of higher lows, yes? Coming up to a resistance level here around this 34, 35 area on EMD. And of course, we do a nice little yellow bar probe right around 640. By the way, this is the sweet spot of when you want to start looking for trades. We talked about this earlier, so if you came in late, you might have missed this. But basically about after 5 to 10 to 15 minutes after the market opens, usually around that 640, 645 time frame, you're going to be looking for kind of your initial breakout, which of course happened here right around 642. See it? 642 was the first trade breakout here. So what you're doing is essentially in that first, see how you had all this kind of chop going on here? 6:30, here's the market open. Here, you know, the first couple of 5 minutes, we're chopping around, and here we go. Boom, here's our first break. Now, here's the thing. Here's what I want to show. If you miss this first break, no problem. You don't have to panic because here we go into another sort of higher pocket of consolidation. Now, the second trade, we're looking for a long breakout. It happens right here. Now, I want to point out a couple of things on this second trade. This might not have given you very much. In fact, it might actually stop dot for a small loss. See how immediately it retraces and comes down and bips the stop dots here? So this actually might have been a small loss here. Or if you held it, depending on your fill on the breakout here, maybe you made a couple of ticks, maybe you scratched the trade, maybe you broke even or lost a couple of ticks. It's hard to say, even if you took this trade at all, whether you made any money on it. It was either a small winner, a scratch, or a small loss. All right? So we have one winner, one scratch, one loss, and then here we come to 7 o'clock. Bruce making note, and this is what I've been Skyping with traders all week about this, saying that around the 7 to 7:10 Pacific time in the past couple of weeks have been good trading EMD and all the equities. That's right. So what I want to show is this. Actually, here comes 7 o'clock right here. We scratch out the second trade. We're still looking for longs because our guidance is long, so we're looking for breakouts and probes to the upside, yes? And then sure enough, here comes 7:02, here's 7:06, here's 7:09, and here's our third breakout, and this is actually the runner of the morning. All the markets ran very nicely. NASI had a nice run up. Russell had a nice run up, and I know Gary called out and tracked. EMD had a nice run up. I think we called 36 as the breakout here. I can't recall. I think it was 36. Broke out very nicely. You had a couple little swings and a little pauses where you could have got in, you know, if you missed it. And then even if you missed the initial break at 36, I just want to show this real quick. See how you had another little pocket of consolidation? And by the way, I don't know if you recall Rich showing the Breakout Auto Trader. The Breakout Auto Trader is another excellent tool. Even if you don't run it live, you're watching these trades. Did you see how it took like all these trades, the probes and the breakouts? If you just remember what Rich showed. And by the way, I videotaped that, so you can rewind it if you watch it. and go back and look at that chart. But if you recall, it got nicked right here. It just got stopped right here. Now, even if you got nicked, either on the auto trader or live in your own trading, you could have re-entered that trade right here on this break, which, by the way, it did. Go back and take a look. It did take this trade. It re-entered, trailed the stop, and then picked up another 25, 30 ticks right here. So, just because you get nicked on a stop, you don't have to give up. You can look for re-entry breaks, which happen right here. And here again, that's the added value of having one of the auto traders to watch, is you could have watched it take that trade, seen the break, and jump back in and rode this up for easily another 30 ticks right here at the end. Overall, depending on your entry, let's say that you didn't take these first two trades and you just took the break at 36-ish right in here. And say if you got nicked here and you got back in, or you rode the whole thing up and stopped out at 42. See how it stopped out here, right around the 42 area? 42 and change. This one trade alone would have been around 60 ticks or around $600. So what I'm trying to show here is this would have been your one and done, even if you didn't take the first two trades here on the breakout at 642 and then subsequently here at 653. If you missed the first two, the little patience paid off, right? A little patience paid off. Here's your 7 o'clock trade. Boom, up she goes, and you just ride it out. So I didn't have time to prep up a NASDAQ chart. My apologies. I might have time before I send the email out to do that. If I do, I'll attach it along with this one, including the recording. By the way, I see we got some free trial folks in here still. Bruce, I see you're here. Yee. I see Bruce, your buddy Phil Herdes is here. Hi, Phil. Crisco, by the way, welcome, Chris. I talked to Chris the other day. She's over there in Nevada. Wilhelm, I see you're here, and David, you're here too. I got your Skype, by the way. If anybody has any questions on this, you can Skype me. Pretty much online most of the day, and everybody has my Skype handle, CBA Charles Boyle Apple 33558. Just hit me up for a contact request, and if you have some questions, we can take Skype calls here in the morning or questions in the afternoon, whatever works. And I'm online most of the day, and just feel free to hit me up. I got 3 waiting right now. So any final questions? Hey, Wilhelm, welcome. Final questions before we wrap? Anything on what we covered here today? Rich, Gary, do you guys have anything else you wanted to cover here today before we wrap out the session?
No, I think I was going to mention
Go ahead, Gary.
that if somebody did take that bounce on NASDAQ, you're just now hitting that resistance area at that 23. So you want to bank some coin. That actually had a hammer candle on a 12. I called it. I actually got in at 23.1750, just above the hammer, and I've been riding it ever since. It's up about 500.
Well, interesting. I don't have a NASDAQ chart up here, but it looks like EMD had a serious drop here, and then she's trying to climb her way back up. So I suppose NASI kind of looks the same as this, huh?
Uh-huh.
Kind of climbing her way back up here.
Yeah, except NASI never really took out the dots.
Oh.
So much. She's been under short dots, but with the 12 range chart, she's been blue bars the whole time. So I've just been taking trades in here, and this was up around not quite 7 points, 6.5 points right now. So roughly what, 28 ticks.
We have a couple questions to come in here before we wrap. James asking active most hours that you use for most active trading. James, a couple of things. I think Rich showed earlier how the currency futures had some very nice moves overnight. So sometimes in those European sessions, if you're a night owl, or if you're overseas, we have a lot of traders over in Germany and Netherlands. If you're trading that European session, sometimes you get nice moves overnight. 6E, 6A, 6C, 6S, depending on what you're watching and trading. Of course, the corollary to that is the Forex market, especially if you have some news events that happen overnight that affect the British pound and the euro. You can occasionally get some very nice movement.
Charles, along those lines too, since it knocked it out of the park in the early session today, I would expect the opposite tonight. Always look to that. If it's really knocked it out of the park in the early session in Europe the day before, the next day tends to struggle. So I personally am not going to trade the night session in those currencies. coming out of the box tonight. It's just a rule of thumb that you can follow, and it's pretty good. It's about 80–90% accurate.
So what he's saying is that the contrast to what happened tonight could be total chop. So you're going to have to watch the European session. Yeah.
Right. Total chop.
And then when it comes to the equities, James, you know, what we're saying the sweet spot on the equities tends to be, and this isn't every day, but for the most part, most days you're going to see this. Here's the open of the market, 6:30 Pacific, kind of right in there. Okay. Here's our little consolidation pocket that happens after the big run up overnight. Here's the 6:40 time frame. Okay, so we're between 10 and 15 minutes into the session. We're looking for some kind of move, and here's our first move of the day. 6:42 actually is when that broke. Okay, and what we're saying here is that basically between there and about 7:30, 8 o'clock, we're looking for the meat of our, you know, sort of the sweet spot or the heart of our equity moves to happen. Here was our second break here at 6:53 right here. Might have made something, might have lost it, might have scratched it, and then of course right here around between 7:06 and 7:08 was actually the move in the morning on the equities. These were 60-tick runs here. This is what we call the one and dones. You know, you get in a nice break, you trail the stop, and get out when you've banked some good coin, and then you're done. You know, if your goal for the day was $500–600, you could have taken that one trade. Perhaps you made a little money over here, maybe you didn't, and then you simply turn off the machine and trade and sim after that. So here we are. This final trade stopped out around, I don't know, 7:42-ish, plus or minus a few minutes over here. Yeah. So anyway, that's sort of the time frames that we keep an eye. I mean, you know, if you're going to really watch the market and look for good trade setups, those would be the times to watch. Overnight European session on the currencies, and then of course the 6:40 to 7:30, 8 o'clock time frame on the equities, and that's all Pacific. Yeah, it's all Pacific time.
And just to follow up, Hans asked when I said expect a choppier market in the European session. That would be in the currencies tonight, Hans. Not the DAX or the Bund or anything else for that, you know, but certainly in the currencies. One of the ways you can approach that on the Pro package is use those long-term trailing stop dots and look to take probe trade entries, either yellow bars or the deep probes. That's one way to approach that.
James asking here, what are the members' rooms hours? James, Gary and Rich open the room at 5:55 Pacific, so just before 6 o'clock. That'd be 9 o'clock Eastern. And generally in that first half an hour, they're kind of assessing the crude oil. Crude oil pits open at 6 a.m. Pacific, and a lot of times you'll get sometimes 60, 80, 100-tick run early on oil. So if you're an oil trader, you know, you're going to want to make sure you get in sort of early in that time frame there to try to catch those moves. And then of course the market opens at 6:30. We're open there, and we keep it open usually till around 8:30, sometimes a little later. Here we are at 8:46, so sometimes we run a little after that. So basically the first 2.5 hours of trading we're here, 6-ish to about 8:30 or so. And we've been doing these recaps now for a couple of weeks where we do a little recap on some of the trades. Like Rich showed the auto traders. I usually show a few manual trades using the guidance dots from the Pro package, and then we have a couple of screenshots that we mail out to the free trialers and members that everybody gets. We do have a webinar tonight. It's a trading webinar at 5 o'clock Pacific. We'll send out the reminder links here in a couple hours. You know, welcome to come check it out. Should be a good one. And if you're nicely green, if you're new to us, you know the saying, or if you've been here for a while, nicely green, turn off the machine. And the whole idea here, of course, is that when you make your money early in the morning, bank that coin. And like, for instance, here you can see that the market's kind of chopping around, and it's this ensuing chop that takes the money back from a lot of traders. So it's that fear and greed. You know, if you caught any of these trades here on the equity markets or the currencies from earlier, don't let this chop beat you up in here. Okay, that's what takes your money back. Okay, Hans, James, welcome everybody. Wilhelm, we'll see you tonight. If we don't, we'll see you tomorrow morning. I think there was a question real quick on the markets tomorrow. Here's Forex Factory. real quick before we wrap, you got some early news here, retail sales numbers, import prices.
You're looking at Friday.
Huh? Oh, today's Thursday. Or wait, tomorrow's Thursday. Okay, sorry about that. I was kind of jumping ahead. I was looking forward to some good moves. I was like, woo, it's going to be juicy. But that's Friday. Sorry about that. All right, where are we at here? Okay, yeah, so trade balance, unemployment claims. Here again, if we get a run up overnight or it's choppy, we'll look for support and resistance, right, our normal analysis. And then I think we have crude oil tomorrow, right?
Yeah, we do it tomorrow, yes.
Yes.
8 o'clock Pacific. So sometimes we get a couple nice oil moves if you're trading the crude oil futures. So we'll see how they react to that. Sometimes they run it up ahead of time. Sometimes they don't. We'll have to see. And here's a Fed balance budget number. This may shake the market up here. We'll have to see what happens. Watch your high energy times tomorrow. So
actually, we have FOMC minutes today, don't we? At 11.
Let's take a look here. Hold on a second. Today. Oh yeah, right here. There you go.
And that comes on the heels of, let's see.
Yeah, you have a high energy around there, don't you?
11:44. Yeah, so this should be a good time. That high energy should be pretty good in there.
So watch
Denton,
for.
I sent you
Sorry.
PM.
Go ahead.
You saw
Go ahead.
that then. Yeah. And Denton, I just want to mention I sent you PM if you see it.
Who, to me?
No, to Denton.
Oh, Denton. Okay. All right. So yeah, we got some FOMC members are speaking here. You've got the minutes at 11. Rich said we've got a high energy coming in 11:44. So you might get a move into the close. You know, you might get some movement into the close today. It's hard to say, but keep an eye on it. If you're going to trade that last hour, could be nice. Last hour and a half. Here again, if it's choppy like yesterday, I mean, here is yesterday into the close. We were watching it. Let's see, it can get a little soupy. So, you know, here again, you got to be looking for some kind of trend move and a breakout, right? Here was the close yesterday, the last, half an hour. This was just a soupy mess. This is something you really didn't want to get in the middle of. But who knows? With the high energy in the minutes, we could get movement today. It's hard to say. Just be careful if you're going to trade the last hour and a half. That's all we're saying. Okay. I think that's it. Thanks for coming, everybody. We'll see some of you tonight at the webinar, and the rest of you we will see tomorrow morning. Go ahead and stop the recorder.